Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing here, giving you a personal prediction for the Jamal James versus Radzhab Butaev encounter taking place this weekend. And as always, just before we get into it, this is just my personal take, and of course, yours can be left down in the comments section below. Would love to hear all those picks. A little bit of fight info here. We have the aforementioned Jamal James, who is the possessor of a portion or version of the WBA welterweight title, however you want to look at it. Fact of the matter is he's not exactly the real world champion there, but he does possess some belt, and he'll be defending that against Radzhab Butaev. This will be taking place at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, airing live on Showtime, as mentioned, in the welterweight division. Now, this is a very intriguing fight in a lot of ways, and it might go a bit under the radar just because they don't have the very biggest names in the sport. This isn't Mayweather versus Pacquiao by any means, but it's a very, very close pick-'em sort of encounter that really could go either way. These guys might not be the very best or the absolute top of the 147-pound division, but they are kind of a showcase of talent just underneath that, with the winner potentially propelling himself into that upper echelon. Both have some noticeable strengths, but some flaws that present themselves as well, so it should definitely be a solid fight. Let's get into the breakdown. Starting with the challenger here, so to speak, we have Butaev, and for him to win, I think he needs to use the jab to disrupt the rhythm of James. I think that James is a guy who likes to get going, likes to use his combinations, and as a result of that, Butaev is going to need to find a way to make sure that he can, in a calculated manner, disrupt that without having to throw everything back in return and fight exact fire with fire. Instead, just kind of douse it a little bit. Throw the occasional jab at first to really disrupt the rhythm, break him up, and make him think about something coming back with before he's really just throwing all of his shots with reckless abandon, because he will let 4, 5, 6 punches peel off, as he's done in previous fights, if you really let him get going. So make sure you use that jab to ensure that he has the least amount of options or ability to do that. I would also say keep your punches compact. One of the issues that James does have when he does get going, especially, is that his punches can get a little bit army. They're not so much, with a twist in the body and coming up from the ground. They're a little more of what you would call arm punches. As a result of that, they sometimes will get wild and a little bit wide as well. So what you can do to try to counteract that and really, benefit from his, mismanagement of his punches there is by keeping your punches compact, short, and straight to the point. The quickest route from A to B is a straight line, and that's going to be what benefits Butaev here. He does have some very compact punches. That doesn't mean he's always going to have to throw exactly where he thinks James is. He might have to time them and really find his rhythm and his patterns and his sort of physical cadence in the ring. But it does mean that you don't want to add any more loop to your punches than is necessary so that you can beat your man to the punch. And finally, look to land the right uppercut. That's one of those shots that, when really well timed, and Butaev can time it well, it can really disrupt a fighter who likes to get a little bit low and start digging in those punches. If you make him reach, take a little step back even, you can really set him up for that right uppercut, and Butaev has a really solid one. So kind of set that trap a little bit, sort of force him to come into you while he's throwing those punches, maybe lunge a little bit more, and land that right uppercut and make him pay the price. For James to win, I think he needs to start by landing the right hand to the body. He's going to want to throw it anyway. He throws a bunch of punches every single round, so it makes sense for him to try and basically take a little bit of the sting out of a fighter who might punch a little bit harder than him. Certainly their records would indicate that he does. This will do a few things. Number one, it'll stop him from trying to stalk you so much. It'll give you a chance to be able to land upstairs eventually, as his guard might lower, and it's also going to take some of the steam and the wind out of his sails, so to speak. So use that right hand to the body, lower that guard, then you could score up top, and of course it's going to make the fight a lot easier for you down the stretch when you put all those points into the bank. I would also say get your combinations going early, but and I say but in that way because it's not just about throwing a bunch of combinations and wild punches. Yes, Jamal James throws a lot of punches, so he's and a lot of combinations. As a result of that, there's not going to be enough time between his last fight and this fight for him to suddenly change into this, well-calculated, completely perfectly schooled fighter. He's going to be a little wild at times. That does not mean that you need to be completely reckless. It just means that you need to pick your spots. Jab, move, make him miss a few times, throw to the body, then light him up with a 4 or 5, even a 6-punch combination. Just make sure it's as tight as it possibly can be, and that you're throwing shots that you can land well and get out of way. Butaev is a decent fighter in regards to speed, but he can be outsped if you let your hands go in the correct pattern, correct way, and then get out of there safely. And finally, keep your back off the ropes as much as possible. One of the issues with James is that he isn't a giant puncher, and as a result of that, even when he's letting off those huge shots and those huge combinations, eventually fighters tend to try and walk through them. And that leads you to being pushed up against the ropes if you're James. You don't want that to happen, especially against a power puncher and a well-schooled one at that in Butaev. That does not mean, of course, that you can't ever be on the ropes and maybe set a trap, or that you can't use it to your benefit by trying to, lean back on it and create some kind of, awkward angled shot that might work. But in general, you do not want to be on the ropes so much that you're allowing Butaev, who is the more powerful of the two punchers, to get his shots off with really not much concern for what's coming back. And as it pertains to my pick, like I said, I think it's a close fight, and I think that'll be shown in the odds here coming up, but I'm leaning towards Butaev here. His straighter shots with more authority will win the night for me. James might win the first few rounds, but as the fight progresses, Butaev will cut off the ring well and start landing right uppercuts as well as the straight power shots down the middle that will rule the night. As James tires, Butaev will come on and stop Jamal late in the affair. Butaev via late fight stoppage. The betting odds for this fight, like I said, are very, very close. Some of the odds I found were a little bit more for this guy, a little more for that guy, but for the most part, they were pretty much even money fights. You have both coming in at a minus 120, what effectively means that it's just a straight up bet. I think you can find a lot of value there in either man. If you think James has the work rate and activity to outwork his man, score more punches, with more punches rather, and win more rounds, I think you have a really solid reason to make that bet there. Don't think you have a solid bet there if you're expecting him to win by knockout necessarily, but he certainly has a chance in this fight to win. I do think Butaev stops him late, as I mentioned in my prediction, so that makes a lot of sense to go with a bet like that. But again, it can go either way. If you can find an over/under, that's also something that you could potentially explore. Again, depending on exactly where they set that sort of line, you have all different types of avenues that you can travel down. But ultimately, I like the straight money bet here. I think if you can find a close, compelling fight like this and find even money, as long as you're confident in your pick, I don't see why you can't lay a relatively decent sized bet on the guy that you're picking. In this case, like I said, I'd be going with Butaev, but I can see either fighter being picked. In any event, my prediction record heading into the weekend is 36-14-3 with 10 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Would love to hear all your thoughts, your predictions, your bets, anything you're laying down, so on and so forth. Let me know who you think is going to win this fight. Again, a bit under the radar, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow at jcalderon_job. And you can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. Love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out junboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. Just updated the schedule, so you're going to get all the fights pretty much from now until the end of the year on there. You can check those out as well as a lot of the betting odds for them as well. I also do have a piece that I wrote on Dillian White and how he has been perceived in the response to him electing to quote-unquote pull out of the Otto Wallin fight with an injury and perhaps head straight into the Tyson Fury fight, so you can check out my thoughts there. Link will be in the description box. In any event, hope you take a look at that, and as always, until next time.